Hi, I'm going to talk about Firefly. Firefly was created by Joss Whedon and it first aired on Fox in 2002. Whedon was already well known at the time for having created Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well as its spin-off Angel. The show was created by Whedon after he read the book The Killer Angels, which chronicles the Battle of Gettysburg. Whedon had wanted to explore the stories of the losing side of the war, how, following their defeat, they were forced to find a new way of life on the outskirts of not only society, but the entire country. He felt that these people had an interesting story to tell that had so far been ignored. This idea would become central to the show, as the captain and first mate of the Serenity, played by Nathan Fillion and Gina Torres respectively, are both veterans on the losing side of the Unification War, known as Browncoats. The winners of the Unification War, the Alliance, play an ever-present authoritarian role in the universe. The crew of the Serenity are often at heads with the Alliance due to their illegal smuggling activity as well as because crewmates River and Simon are outlaws on the run from Alliance experimentation. Beyond the chance of arrest is the ever-present threat of betrayal and the much worse possibility of being captured by a group of cannibals who live on the outskirts of the known universe. They live their entire lives in space, only going planetside to raid and pillage settlements. Basically, think of a space version of the Fiends from Fallout New Vegas, only much more sadistic and much less civilized. These Reavers' entire existence is denied by the Alliance, with people living in the core worlds believing them to be a myth or a made-up boogeyman designed as a scapegoat for criminals. Scenes depicting the crew or their escapades were shot in a more free documentarian style in order to depict the disorganized, rough-and-tumble nature of the Outer Worlds. While scenes depicting the Alliance were shot with a steady camera, allowing for a more consistent shot and a more professional, organized feel. The show used these and many different elements of filmmaking and storytelling to show the stark contrast within the verse. Things like traveling through the silent vacuum of space only to land on a planet and ride away on horseback. The show featured a blend of Anglo-Sino cultures which were evident in the set design and costumes. Combined with the stellar visuals, Firefly created a very unique look that set it apart from the typical space western. I mean, the series is just beautiful to look at. Although it is dated, Firefly actually offers a more realistic and appealing view of the verse than similar shows from the time. Firefly even won an Emmy in 2003 for Outstanding Special Visual Effects for a Series. This went along with winning 2 Saturn Awards and being nominated for 2 Hugo Awards. This showed that Firefly impressed critics from both a visual and a world-building aspect in its first and only season. The crew is often shown to have questionable morals, which lead to a myriad of problems for the group to endure, both within the show and in the real world. One such real-world issue came about in the pilot episode, when the crew chose not to stand up to a crime boss, rather opting to do nothing. Fox strongly disliked this choice and wanted the crew to be more admirable. This, coupled with Fox's dislike of the Captain Mao, led to the network demanding a rewrite or Face not being picked up at all. They gave Whedon the weekend to do so, and he and head writer Tim Miner scrambled to finish the new pilot in time, shutting themselves in a room for the entirety of the weekend just to ensure its completion. They would come through, and Fox would accept the new pilot, leading to the first episode premiering on September 20th, 2002. This episode was actually the second episode in the series, as Fox decided to air the episodes out of order. The first episode, titled The Train Job, pulled in a 4.0 rating and just over 4 million viewers. This was really bad for a series premiere on a major network, and these poor ratings would show in the national rank as well, landing just outside of the top 50 to sit at 66th place. Things would only get worse as the season went on, as over the first 3 episodes the show lost almost 1 million viewers while being the only episodes to receive above a 3 rating in the entire series. These viewership woes wouldn't go away, as the 4th episode aired to a meager 2.9 million viewers and a 2.7 rating, barely staying in the top 100 shows to sit at 98th. Following this drop, the 5th episode would experience a small uptick in both viewership and rating, rising 8 spots to sit at 90th and gaining over 200,000 new viewers. The next 3 episodes would be nearly identical to the 5th in terms of viewership rating, with the only noticeable deviation being in the rank, as Firefly would move over a dozen spots but never rise higher than 89th. Following this consistency, the 9th episode would break the trend, seeing a 20% drop in viewership while losing half a point in rating and over 500,000 L+7 viewers. This led to the show returning to the top 100, landing at the 99th spot. After falling in both rating and viewership the prior week, the 10th episode would see a slight rise in all categories, gaining over 0.2 of a point in rating and over 200,000 new viewers. This growth would continue to the 11th episode, which had a similar rise, improving to just under 3 million viewers and a 2.7 rating. The numbers the show received throughout the season so far were nowhere near what Fox had expected, being the lowest rated show on Fox for the year 2002 and pulling in only slightly higher ratings than Whedon's other two shows, Buffy and Angel. The biggest difference being both Buffy and Angel aired on the WB, which is a much smaller network than Fox and has always been on the outside looking in on the Big Four. In the early 2000s, Fox struggled to even keep up with the Big Three, consistently averaging lower ratings than NBC, ABC, and CBS. Even with Fox being the smallest of the big dogs, the network still averaged over twice the ratings of the WB. Despite Buffy and Angel having half the usual audience to pull from, all three of Whedon's shows averaged similar ratings, with Firefly barely beating out the previous two. It wasn't even a matter of the competition pulling all the viewers away from Firefly. Only two of the shows airing in the same 8 p.m. time slot even landed inside of the top 50. To go along with this, almost every single show was ranked between 50th and 100th place. The biggest outlier was Firefly, which landed at 128th. This meant that Firefly was the only major network show to be ranked outside of the top 100 for the fall Friday night lineup. This wasn't lost on Fox, and they decided to pull the plug and cancel Firefly with 3 episodes left to air. These episodes wouldn't be seen in the US until the box set was released in late December 2003. This box set would go on to sell over 500,000 copies by the year 2005, a near mind-blowing number considering the small audience the show managed to obtain during its run on television. Fox would replace Firefly with the groundbreaking new show, Fastlane, a boring-ass cop drama which was promptly cancelled after a single season. Fastlane did actually produce better ratings than Firefly in the same time slot, pulling in almost 1 million more L+7 viewers than the show they replaced. This leads me to believe that although Firefly was able to pull in a strong cult following after its cancellation, that the show wasn't able to produce the viewership ratings that Fox demanded. The show that replaced Firefly had almost 33% higher ratings, and it was still cancelled. It was obvious that Fox wanted much higher ratings in the Friday night time slot, and Firefly wasn't able to produce them. I don't think moving to a new network would fix the problem either, as like I said, the WB had shows that performed similarly to Firefly. Even if the show retained 100% of its viewership from Fox, it would still only be the 5th highest rated show on the network, only beating out Reba for the spot by 1/100th of a point. Firefly was also still owned by Fox, which meant that the WB would need to acquire the rights to the show in order to even air previous episodes, let alone make new ones. I can't guess at the price, but I doubt that the network was willing to purchase a show that not only lost viewers consistently throughout its season, but never even lived up to the expectations prior to the drop in the first place. The only hope of a return to television was born because of the box set having such astronomical sales. This went along with the massive fan campaigns in prompting Universal Studios to pick the show up for a full-length movie. The movie would be titled Serenity, after the ship featured in the show, as Fox still owned the rights to the Firefly name. Serenity was released in September 2005 featuring the original cast, and it did not do well. The budget was $39 million, and the US box office sales were a meager $25.5 million, not even enough to recoup the budget. The movie only turns a profit once you include the international numbers, but even after this, the movie only manages to pull in $40 million, turning only a $1 million profit for Universal. This would be the final nail in the coffin for the show. Networks had been waiting with bated breath to see if the movie was able to show the enormous following behind Firefly. When the movie premiered to such low numbers, the networks turned away from the franchise entirely. Like these networks, I also think it proves that although Firefly did have a large online following, it wasn't enough to keep the show going. Taking into account the American sales only made back 65% of the budget, it's pretty easy to draw the conclusion that there wasn't enough demand in the States to warrant a continuation, let alone a revival of the show. And that's about all I got. If you liked this video, why not try out that subscribe button? Other than that, I've been Semantics. Have a great day today, everybody.